It was supposed to be a normal afternoon. The sun was shining, kids were laughing, and the water in the neighborhood pool sparkled under the light. Mia had only planned to take a short swim to clear her mind after a long week. She never expected that within minutes, her life would change forever. As she floated near the edge, she suddenly heard a scream, a panicked voice cutting through the air. Her eyes darted toward the deep end, where a small child was struggling, gasping for breath, arms flailing helplessly. The lifeguard was nowhere in sight. Without thinking, Mia sprang into action. She pushed through the water with all her strength, reaching the little girl just as she was about to go under. Wrapping her arms around the child, she pulled her to the surface, her heart pounding as she swam back to safety. The child coughed, crying as Mia laid her on the deck, gently patting her back. People rushed over, parents, onlookers, murmurs of shock and relief spreading through the crowd. A woman, presumably the child's mother, shoved through the bystanders, eyes wide with panic. She grabbed her daughter, holding her tight. Mia expected gratitude, a simple thank you for saving her little girl's life. But that's not what happened. Instead of appreciation, the mother's face twisted with something else: anger, suspicion. She pulled the child closer, glancing around, almost as if looking for someone to blame. The crowd's murmurs changed, shifting from relief to hushed whispers. A few people exchanged glances, and Mia suddenly felt an unease she couldn't explain. Then, just as quickly as it started, everything took a turn she never saw coming. Before she could even process what was happening, Mia found herself at the center of something far bigger than she'd signed up for. Something that made her question if doing the right thing was even worth it. And what happened next? That was truly shocking. Mia stood frozen, water dripping from her clothes, her breathing still heavy from the rescue. But something was off. The way people were looking at her, it wasn't admiration. It wasn't gratitude. It was something else: uncertainty, doubt. The child's mother held her daughter protectively, whispering something in her ear before turning to Mia. "What were you doing near her?" she asked, her voice sharp. The accusation in her tone caught Mia off guard. I just pulled her out," Mia stammered, trying to understand why this woman wasn't relieved. "She was drowning. I saved her." But the woman didn't look convinced. She exchanged glances with a man standing nearby, his arms crossed, watching Mia closely. The tension thickened as a few more people gathered, their hushed voices swirling around her. Mia could hear bits and pieces. Who is she? Did anyone actually see what happened? Where were her parents? Mia felt a sinking feeling in her stomach. She had done the right thing. She had risked herself to save a child. But now, instead of appreciation, she was being treated like a suspect. The lifeguard finally appeared, a young guy who looked no older than 20, clearly flustered. "What's going on?" he asked, looking between Mia and the child's mother. "She was in the water with my daughter," the woman said, gripping the little girl's shoulders tightly. I don't know what happened before that. Mia's heart pounded. What was she implying? That she had something to do with the child ending up in danger. "I was just swimming," Mia said firmly, trying to keep her voice steady. "I heard her screaming and I jumped in." The mother hesitated, her lips pressing into a thin line. The little girl sniffled against her shoulder, still shaken. Mia wanted her to speak, to say something, anything that would confirm what had really happened. But the child stayed silent, burying her face in her mother's shirt. Then, out of nowhere, someone pulled out their phone. Mia felt her stomach twist. "Maybe we should call someone," a voice suggested. And just like that, things went from bad to worse. Maya's chest tightened as she watched the phone screen light up. Were they actually calling someone? She wanted to believe this was just a misunderstanding, that once she explained everything, it would be fine. But the looks on their faces told a different story. The lifeguard knelt beside the child, asking if she was okay, but the little girl only nodded weakly. Mia took a deep breath and turned to the mother again, forcing herself to stay calm. I promise you, I only helped her. I don't know how she ended up struggling. The mother didn't respond right away. Her grip on her daughter loosened slightly, but her face remained unreadable. The people around them weren't helping. Some were murmuring, others watching like they were waiting for something dramatic to happen. And then another voice cut through the air. I saw what happened, an older man said, stepping forward. She saved that little girl. No question about it. Relief flooded Mia for a brief moment. Finally, someone who understood. She turned toward the man, hoping his words would be enough to calm everything down. But just as quickly, another voice spoke up. Yeah, but how did the kid end up in trouble in the first place? A woman muttered. The mom was right there 1 second, then suddenly she's drowning. Doesn't make sense. Maya's stomach dropped. Now it wasn't just about whether she saved the girl. It was about whether she had something to do with her almost drowning in the first place. The accusation hung in the air, unspoken but heavy. She could see it in their eyes. Suspicion. She turned back to the mother. You have to believe me, Mia pleaded, her voice quieter now. I would never. But before she could finish, the sound of approaching footsteps made everyone turn. A figure stepped forward, their expression unreadable. Someone had been watching the whole thing. And what they had to say would change everything. Maya's pulse pounded in her ears as the figure stepped forward. It was a woman, maybe in her late 30s, with sharp eyes that scanned the scene like she was piecing together a puzzle. The murmurs around them quieted, people shifting uncomfortably. She had an air of authority, like someone who knew how to take control of a situation. I was here the whole time, the woman finally said, her voice steady. And I saw exactly what happened. Mia held her breath. This was it. Someone who could finally clear everything up. But the way the woman looked at her sent a chill down her spine. It wasn't relief. It wasn't reassurance. It was calculation. The mother turned to her, desperate for answers. And there was a long pause. Too long. Mia felt every second drag out like an eternity. I saw the girl struggling, the woman continued, her tone slow, deliberate. And I saw her, she nodded toward Mia, jump in right away. Mia exhaled, her shoulders dropping slightly. Finally, the truth was coming out. But the woman added, and the tension snapped back in place. I also saw something else. Maya's relief vanished. The way the woman's voice dipped, the way the crowd leaned in. Something was wrong. I saw the little girl alone for a while, and I saw her looking around, almost like she was scared of something before she went under. The mother's grip on her daughter tightened. Scared? Of what? The woman hesitated, eyes flicking toward Mia before she spoke again. I don't know, but she wasn't just playing. Something had her panicked. Mia felt the weight of every gaze shift back to her. It was subtle, but it was enough. That was creeping back in, swallowing any chance she had of proving her innocence. She turned to the little girl, her heart racing. Please, he said softly, trying to reach her, tell them what happened. The little girl lifted her head, eyes wide, and parted her lips like she was about to speak. And then, just as the words were about to come out, she burst into tears. Maya's stomach twisted. Whatever she was about to say, she was too afraid to say it. The little girl's sobs filled the air, her small body shaking as she clung to her mother. Mia's throat went dry. She could feel the pressure closing in on her, the weight of every eye watching, waiting, judging. She wanted to scream that this was all a mistake, that she had done nothing wrong, but the energy around her had shifted. The mother bent down, whispering something to her daughter, her voice too low for Mia to hear. The girl shook her head violently, tears streaming down her face. Whatever had happened before she went under, whatever had frightened her, it wasn't something she was willing to say. Mia took a step forward, desperate to break through the fear, but the mother lifted a hand, stopping her. "Just leave us alone," she said, her voice cold. A lump formed in Mia's throat. Alone. She had risked everything to save this child, and now she was being cast aside like she was the problem. Before she could argue, a new voice cut through the air. "Wait." The crowd shifted as another figure approached. A young boy, maybe 12 or 13, standing off to the side. He had been watching the whole time, his expression uneasy. I think I know what happened." Mia turned to him, hope flickering inside her. "You do." The boy hesitated, his eyes darting to the little girl, then to the woman who had spoken earlier. He swallowed hard, like he was debating whether to speak at all. "I saw her drop something in the water," he finally said. Right before she started freaking out, Mia frowned. "Drop what?" The boy shifted uncomfortably. "I don't know. It was small. I thought it was a toy or something, but when she saw it sink, she got really scared." A shiver ran down Mia's spine. It wasn't just drowning that had terrified the girl. Something else had sent her into a panic. Something she had lost. Mia glanced at the water, now still and empty, but her gut told her that whatever had sunk to the bottom of that pool held the answer to everything. Maya's eyes locked onto the water. The tension in the air was suffocating, but she knew the answer was right there, beneath the surface. Without hesitating, she stepped toward the pool. "I need to see what she dropped," she said, her voice firm. The lifeguard hesitated. "I don't think that's." But Mia was already in. The coldness of the water wrapped around her as she dove deep, her heartbeat thudding in her ears. The bottom of the pool was murky, shadows distorting shapes in the fading light. She scanned the floor, her lungs burning. And then she saw it, a small shiny object glinting between the tiles. Her fingers closed around it, and she kicked toward the surface. When she broke through, gasping for air, everyone was watching. She waded to the edge and slowly opened her palm. Resting there was a delicate silver locket, its tiny chain tangled. It looked old, worn, like it had been cherished for years. The little girl's cries quieted instantly. Her wide eyes locked onto the locket, and her tiny hand shot out toward it. "Is this what you lost?" Mia asked gently. The girl sniffled and nodded. The mother knelt beside her, confusion knitting her brows. "Honey, where did you get this?" The little girl hesitated, glancing around nervously before finally whispering, "It was Grandma's." A murmur ran through the crowd. The mother's expression changed, her eyes widening. "But Grandma's locket was lost years ago." "How did you?" She stopped, her face paling. The woman who had stepped forward earlier shifted uncomfortably. "That's not possible," she muttered. "It must be something else." Mia felt a chill crawl up her spine. Something about this wasn't adding up. She turned to the little girl. "Where did you find it?" The child clutched the locket tightly. "In the water," she whispered. "I saw someone drop it." A silence fell over the group. The pool water rippled slightly, the only sound in the heavy air. But the girl wasn't finished. She lifted her tear-streaked face and pointed toward the deep end. "I saw her," she said. "She was watching me." Mia's breath caught in her throat. There was no one else in the pool. There hadn't been. But the little girl was certain, and the way she stared at the water, eyes wide with something between fear and wonder. Mia suddenly wasn't sure if she had saved the girl from drowning or from something else entirely. The silence around the pool was deafening. Mia looked at the little girl, her small finger still pointing toward the deep end. Eyes filled with something Mia couldn't quite place, fear or understanding. A shiver ran down Mia's spine as she glanced at the water, half expecting to see something, or someone. But the surface was still, only the faint ripple of the pool lights shimmering across it. The mother pulled her daughter close, stroking her hair. "Sweetheart, there's no one there," she whispered, but her voice wavered, as if she wasn't entirely sure. The little girl didn't argue. She just held the locket tighter, pressing it against her chest like it was the only thing keeping her safe. The crowd around them had started to thin, murmuring amongst themselves, exchanging uneasy glances before slipping away. The woman who had spoken earlier lingered for a moment longer before shaking her head. "Whatever this is, it's over now," she said, almost like she was convincing herself. Then, without another word, she walked off into the night. Mia turned back to the little girl. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. The child nodded, her tears finally drying, but her hands still trembled. The mother sighed, looking at Mia with something different in her eyes now. Not suspicion, but gratitude. "Thank you," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been here." Mia gave a small, tired smile. "I'm just glad she's safe." As they walked away, Mia stayed by the pool, staring at the dark water. Something about this night would stay with her forever. The little girl hadn't just been drowning. She had been running from something, something no one else could see. Mia exhaled, shaking off the chill that clung to her skin. Maybe it was just a child's imagination, or maybe some things weren't meant to be explained. Either way, she knew one thing for sure. She had saved the girl. And that was all that mattered. Turning away, she left the pool behind, never noticing the single ripple that spread across the water one last time before fading into the night.